Most stories are told like there's only one mountain to climb, one peak, one moment of glory, one chance to prove yourself. But some stories are different. Some stories are about refusing to accept that you only get one shot at greatness. 7 young men who kept finding new mountains to conquer, new ways to redefine what it meant to succeed. This isn't about falling and rising again. This is about never stopping the climb. This is the story of IKON. Before IKON existed, there was survival. Win and mix and match weren't just reality shows. They were public dissection. 7 boys stripped down to their rawest selves, competing not just against other trainees, but against each other on national television. Every mistake was broadcast, every breakdown filmed, every moment of doubt made entertainment. Survival shows have since become a staple of the K-pop industry, launching groups like Stray Kids and hanbin into the spot. This kind of exposure was still relatively uncharted territory. The pressure wasn't simply to stand out, it was to survive in front of millions. But here's what the cameras couldn't capture: the way they started choosing each other even while they were supposed to be rivals. Bobby staying up to help Chanwoo with rap verses, Hanbin taking responsibility not just for his own performance, but for the whole team's success. They turned a competition into a collaboration. They made it through the crucible by reshaping it. What was meant to divide them bonded them instead. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, they had become more than just winners of a show. They were IKON, and they had already begun climbing their first mountain together. That bond would be the foundation for everything that came next. On September 15, 2015, My Type dropped, and things shifted. It wasn't a typical idol debut. It was laid back, melodic, and sure of itself. Then came Rhythm Ta, a sharp contrast. It brought energy, grit, and an unapologetic tone. Bobby's urgency, Hanbin's daring production, it all felt unfiltered. This wasn't a group following trends, it was a group defining their own. They didn't ease into the industry, they burst through. Rookie awards didn't crown them. They confirmed what was already clear. They had climbed another mountain, debuting on their own terms with no compromise in sight. And as soon as they stepped into the spotlight, they set their sights on something bigger. As the dust of debuts settled and the spotlight grew brighter, something else started to unfold, the way new fans saw them. It wasn't only about the music anymore, it was about the people behind it. Newcomers stumbled upon IKON's performances and found themselves drawn not just to the sound, but to the souls behind it. One fan would talk about being wrecked by Bobby's raw fire, only to find out he's also the group's emotional anchor. Another might laugh at Junhoe's height jokes, then stay for his undeniable stage presence. Donghyuk wasn't just a dancer, he was the heart that quietly held the team together. Junhoe's deep voice caught attention first, but his weird, charming chaos made people stay. Yunhyeong's level-headedness and versatility slowly won people over. Always ready, always composed, the kind of presence that holds everything in place. And chanwoo, he wasn't a background member growing into visibility. He was proof that quiet determination speaks volumes. His growth wasn't sudden, but steady, the kind that left a real impact. Every fan found their own story in a member. A bias, yes, but more than that, a connection. Because IKON weren't characters in a perfect script. They were flawed, open, goofy, intense, and above all, real. And in that growing fandom, the members stopped being names on a lineup. They became part of people's daily lives, idols that felt like friends. With their identity established, it was time to prove they could hold a stage. And they did, not just in Korea, but on some of the biggest stages in Japan. As rookies, they played the massive dome venues, a feat almost unheard of. These shows were unforgettable. Audiences weren't just watching a group perform, they were participating in something alive. IKON's raw energy, their openness, and their ability to connect turned every concert into a communal moment. They took the music they'd made in the studio and exploded it into something bigger on stage. Real, messy, emotional. They built a bond with their audience that was unshakable. With each performance, each scream, each shared beat, they climbed higher. mastering the art of connection through live presence. But even beyond the stage, they were about to strike something deeper. A moment that no one, not even they, could have predicted. The next peak didn't come with noise, it came with stillness. Love's Scenario slipped into the world gently, and suddenly it was everywhere. Kids in playgrounds, adults on commutes. A song that didn't demand attention but earned it. It wasn't engineered to go viral, it was simply honest. A bittersweet melody, a story of love and parting delivered without excess. The sincerity hit home. Love's Scenario dominated charts for 6 straight weeks, won Gaon's Song of the Year in 2018, and left a legacy that reached beyond K-pop. It became a national tune, and it marked another mountain conquered, not through force, but through quiet resonance. This kind of success changes expectations, and IKON didn't shrink from them. They used it as fuel to grow further. After becoming household names, IKON didn't get comfortable. They chose to dig deeper. With songs like Killing Me, Goodbye Road, and I'm Okay, they shifted the style. Not louder, but more layered. The emotions felt heavier, the sound more refined. They also continued putting out bangers that fans couldn't get enough of. Blee Bling, Dumb and Dumber, What's Wrong, Apology. Each track added something new to their legacy, and fans explored them all like hidden treasures, unable to stop singing along. Their songs reflected an inward journey, exhaustion, grief, longing. And they didn't need to shout to be heard. By leaning into vulnerability, they found strength in subtlety and climbed yet another peak, grounded in trust of their own evolution. But soon, they'd be forced to confront a shift no one could have prepared for. In 2019, Hanbin stepped down. As the leader and main producer, his absence shook the group's core. Fans feared collapse. But IKON didn't fall apart, and each member found new footing. Their 2021 release, Why, was filled with aching questions, not answers. But in that vulnerability was power. They didn't pretend everything was the same. They leaned into change. They honored their past while carving a future without erasing what came before. They followed up with the EP Flashback, showing a new side of their artistry, more balanced, more mature, yet still unmistakably IKON. As for Hanbin, his departure was heartbreaking. Many fans continued to support both IKON and Hanbin's individual paths. Their strength wasn't rooted in avoiding change. It came from adapting and continuing to build, shaped by everything they'd already been through. And with the world watching, they stepped into their next challenge. One more stage to prove what they'd become. With momentum uncertain, they joined Kingdom Legendary War in 2021, a competition show where top male idol groups battled through high-stakes performance rounds. Kingdom was designed to test creativity, versatility, and showmanship in a way few shows had before. Many underestimated them, calling them a legacy act, no longer at their peak. But IKON used the stage to prove they were still growing. They flipped Blackpink's Pretty Savage into their own statement. Each performance became a show of skill, vision, and reinvention. They weren't chasing the past. They were pushing themselves forward, reigniting their creative fire. They also debuted self-arranged versions of older tracks, blending nostalgia with fresh perspective. Kingdom became a mirror, showing how far they'd come and how much further they were willing to go. As Kingdom ended, it was clear. IKON hadn't run out of mountains. They were just choosing which ones to climb next. After years of shared stages, the members began exploring personal paths. Bobby's solo work had already made waves, but now others followed. Donghyuk with acting and songwriting, Junhoe stepping into dramas, chanwoo carving his own space online. Jinwon too began showing his range through solo music and dance content. Yunhyeong deepened his variety show appearances and content creation. Even Hanbin, known as BI, continued building a powerful solo career, a reminder of his roots and relentless artistry. Their transition to 143 Entertainment in January 2023 opened new possibilities. With full creative control, they dropped Tantara and the album Take Off, a bold return with classic IKON fire and fresh attitude. They weren't proving they were still here, they were proving they'd never left. They were just evolving, Each member's solo exploration wasn't an end, but a wider view of their capability. IKON's journey was never about a single peak. From survival shows to stadiums, chart-topping hits to self-produced comebacks, lineup changes to label shifts, they never stayed still. Where many groups fade or fracture, IKON kept moving. Even when the path changed, even when the noise died down, they never stopped making noise of their own. They redefined what it means to be a K-pop group. Not just a brand or a phase, but a band of artists, still walking together, still climbing. And as of 2025, they're still writing this story as a team under 143 Entertainment, with more music, more stages, and more to say. Because in the end, it was never about one mountain. It was always about many. And IKON, they're still not done. They're still out there, chasing new sounds, building new stories, and carrying every version of themselves forward. IKON dared to be bold. Will you?